We'll kick it off with this one. You were talking about maybe folks who were in the process of getting married, going through premarital counseling, that kind of thing. So this is a tough one, like right out of the gate. You know, I'm not taking it easy on you today. So it says, when would you decline to marry a person after counseling? Wow. Like what would be maybe the baseline for? Okay, this is when you should figure out this isn't a good idea.
Well, if I have to tell somebody they shouldn't get married, that's me declining to marry them. Most conversations that I have with people, even when I can tell spiritually they're not 100% on the same page.
Right.
What I do oftentimes, because I can't make people choose to get married.
Right.
But what I do oftentimes is I'll raise up I call them flags. I'll basically look, if you choose to walk forward in this marriage, here's a flag in the air.
Right.
And you need to pay attention to that flag. And you need to give all your attention to making sure you address those issues. Sometimes it's communication, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's just whether they want to, are they on the same plan for kids? And I'll raise that flag, and there'll be several flags throughout a counseling session, which doesn't mean you don't walk forward.
Right.
It just means that if you choose to walk forward,
just know you got some work.
You need to know these flags are in the air. So that's usually what I do. I haven't had anyone yet that I have flat out. I know Donnie has, but I haven't had anybody yet that I was like, no, that's a bad idea. Like across the board. Yeah. Praise God for that.
Yeah. I haven't done many ceremonies, but I vividly remember one going through the counseling process. That I was like, man, this ain't gonna work.
Really?
But could not get them talked out of it, and of course it did not work. So,
it didn't work. Dude.
So I understand
that's
that question.
Okay.
That's a tough situation. Yeah.
All
right. So this one here says, since intimacy with your spouse isn't something that you can achieve alone,
correct?
It's a covenant bond between two people and God.
Yes.
What do you do when your spouse isn't interested or doesn't seem interested in renewing that true or real marriage intimacy? Like one spouse is, let's pursue this, and the other one's kind of like, no, I'm good. What do you do in that situation?
So if you read the book Love and Respect, the way they describe it, I'm trying to remember the picture they use. I think they used it kind of like starting a car.
Yeah.
Kind of the rat-tat-tat of starting a car. Love and respect is this kind of circle that fuels each other. And the reality is any break, any fracture is usually because one person chooses not to keep the circle going. And you're right, it's a circle. It takes two. It can't just be one. But the reality is that it's a more difficult thing to do, to continue to put yourself out there, to be hurt and be vulnerable, but to engage your part in that, and let it just go constant, like kind of like a starter. It's like it's ticking, and constantly praying and constantly working and making yourself available so that when it starts, it can go. Yeah. And it's very difficult. And I'm telling you, read the book, because the book gives you great examples of couples that have experienced this, that sometimes it's years. And again, our culture would be like, not worth it, get them out of the house, start over. But I'm telling you that from a covenantal standpoint, it doesn't matter what part of it is, especially if it's physical intimacy, it's very difficult to do. I'm not telling you it's easy. But the reality is you got to keep putting yourself there and doing what you can do to fuel that reciprocation. Most people are on the receiving end. I'm waiting for them to do the thing that will fuel me to do it. But you kind of talked about the starter in a car. Like, you got to just keep going. Just keep going.
Well, and I like what you said today, even about the fact that intercession plays a role. Like as that spouse, that sees that disconnect. The one thing you can always do is just say, God, I can't make them pursue this, even though that's what I know needs to be done. You come in and do the work that only you can do. And like you said, it may take months, it may take years.
There's so many scriptures about unbelieving spouses, and it says, the scriptures like Peter and someone says, look, you're going to do everything you can to live in harmony. You're going to do all that you can to keep your testimony and to pursue them and obey and honor, even when you're not even on the same page. It says you do that. And the witness alone can make a difference, let alone, like you said, I believe in the intercessory part where you pray for them, and the power of prayer is what changes all of it.
Absolutely.
So, I'm with you.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
And this is tough. Probably a lot of people have this question in our society today. So is it possible to have or experience true intimacy and oneness with your spouse who maybe has been through an addiction. They put a porn addiction, but there's all kind of addictions, and has had an affair. If so, how can that still be achieved?
Years. Counseling.
Yeah, counseling.
But yeah, I mean, the answer is yes.
Well, yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And like I said last week, it begins and ends with redemption.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that was so good last week.
Yeah,
yes.
it has to begin
and ends with redemption.
And walking in
yes.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
And,
because there is no way, there's no way to experience any of that without forgiveness.
Right.
And that goes along whether or not the fullness of the person who's offending even gets the fullness of what they've done. Right. And that's hard too, because we don't oftentimes want to forgive unless there's, you know, proof,
right.
if you will, that you're sorry, you hate yourself enough, or you're sorry enough, or whatever the case is. Yeah, porn addiction is the same way. Anything along those lines, like it begins and ends with redemption, and it begins and ends with a part of that redemption is the willingness for someone not to become bitter or jaded. When it becomes like a proof standpoint.
Right.
Again, that's a tough part of it. Like when your husband or your spouse has had an affair and they've emotionally betrayed you, physically betrayed you, relationally betrayed you, spiritually, I mean, they've betrayed everything. For you to forgive and extend yourself out there to be hurt again is one of the most difficult things anyone can do.
Right.
And yet, you talk to people that have worked through this and and are now experiencing true intimacy. That unbroken covenant is not unbroken from the standpoint of it's never been fractured.
Right.
It's unbroken because of who Christ is.
Yeah.
Christ is the same regardless of my crap-filled container.
Right.
Like he can do the work, but the requirement and the work on our end is massive. So I would definitely, I would encourage the Love Language book. I would encourage the Love and Respect book.
Yeah.
They're one of the two most practical books filled with knowledge and practical challenge about how this plays itself out, like Ephesians 5 and Genesis, how it plays itself out in marriage. So those are tough. And I'll tell you what, man, intimacy is just, that's one of the things we talked about with this series. It's going to be the hardest thing we do.
Yeah.
Rest of our lives.
Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, I would say all those things you mentioned, counseling, if you're still walking through that, is a good place. It's just good to have a third voice that's removed from the situation to speak into that. And then groups, getting with other married people. You never know what other people have walked through and how that can shape your journey. And so the groups that we've got, Two Becoming One, are a great place to start with that.
Yeah, and at Partner Night, I read a story from an old Journey person that they experienced a fracture showed up in their marriage. They remembered a story or a testimony of somebody at our church who had walked through something very similar, and they don't live here anymore, but they called them.
Right.
And they called them and got them on the phone, and again, the support of another person, the support of people walking through it is huge to help us, kind of stay focused. And you don't want to do it alone. That's for sure.
It's a great questions, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, very good.
I'm sure we probably will get some more on this. But hey, thank you for staying with us over the last few weeks, and we're looking forward to a new series kicking off next week. The Why Behind the Why. I'm sure we'll have questions on that too.
It's gonna be a lot.
Got some good topics we're going to be talking about. So it's going to be fun. You guys have a great Sunday. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.